Mm. You know, Charles Martin is 22-0-1 with 20 KOs. 29 years old. Nobody knows who he is. I got a chance to talk to him a little bit, watch him work out with the media. For the media earlier this week. Well, let me say the weights first. Charles Martin weighed in, what was it? 249 pounds. That's the heaviest he's been. And Glazkov, his opponent, 218 pounds. Charles Martin, when you look at his resume, Vicente Sandez, Tom Dallas, Raphael Love, Damon McCreary, Kirkson Manswell, and you're thinking Charles Martin is fighting for the IBF Heavyweight Championship of the world. He's fighting for a chunk. He like the second American since Shannon Briggs to be a champion of the world. He's fighting for a shot, and you're thinking, thank you, Al Heyman, right? I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy. I cover every single major fight live. This is actually the fight I'm more interested in than Deontay Wilder versus Artur Szpilka. Vyacheslav Glazkov, see, he's a fighter who I really don't like. He really, you can't really define him. When it came to Malik Scott, that was a draw. I believe Malik Scott should have won that fight, but Malik Scott didn't do enough in the judges' eyes. When it came to Steve Cunningham, I believe Steve Cunningham should have won that fight. But when you look at the resume of Glazkov, he has a nice, solid resume. And you would think that of all the mistakes that he's made or not clean-cut the victories that he's had, this is the time to fight a fighter who's relatively unknown in Charles Martin and put on the show. He weighed in at 218 pounds, and he's the shorter fighter, and I've seen it. He's significantly shorter, about 6 inches or so. So he's going to have to do a lot to be able to get in on the inside, but we don't know really who Charles Martin is. There's only a couple of fights that you can see of him on YouTube, and they're not really in good quality. So you have to think, well, what does Charles Martin weigh? I mean, what does Charles Martin bring to the table? Especially now at this point in his career, he's coming in weighing the heaviest he's ever weighed. So I'm thinking to myself, like, is it the jitters? This is the first time, for example, in his career, I'm pretty much sure that he's had this much media in his face and actually interested in knowing what he's going to bring to the table. Because looking at him, he did seem a little, I'm not going to say uncomfortable, but he did seem like, kind of like a deer in the headlights, just a little bit. But the winner of this, the IBF rankings, and let me pull them up real quick. The IBF rankings for the heavyweight championship is not really that deep. Now, of course, if Deontay Wilder wins, and then if Deontay Wilder beats Artur Szpilka, then Deontay Wilder can fight the winner of Glazkov versus Charles Martin. Glazkov himself was supposed to be fighting Deontay Wilder, but pulled out to fight another Heyman fighter, in which his representatives, Nicole Duva, who I asked the question to of why pick Charles Martin over Deontay Wilder. They're saying they're getting more money to fight Charles Martin than to fight Deontay Wilder. But let me pull up the IBF rankings real quick, as far as the heavyweights are concerned. Because I believe that if Charles Martin wins, he's going to go the route of fighting top 15 IBF guys to get his name more built up. And it's crazy because the next mandatory with the IBF for the title is Vladimir Klitschko. So if Vladimir Klitschko beats Tyson Fury in a rematch, he would possibly want to go back and get his belt. And the easiest target to pick right there would be Charles Martin, unless Al Heyman steps in and says, no, you're not getting Charles Martin right now. But when it comes to the IBF, rankings outside of Vladimir Klitschko, it's not really deep. It's not, you got Anthony Joshua on there, Carlos Takam, Joseph Parker, Andy Ruiz, Romain Severn, Kubrat Pulev. Well, actually, that is pretty deep. But when it comes to who he would fight, Charles Martin is not going to have an easy road. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes if he wins the title and, how long Al Heyman can keep him winning. And this is a fight where, like I said, he's fighting in the co-feature. He's never fought at this level before in his career as far as promotional wise. And it's going to be interesting to see you know, him as a fighter, because us hardcore fans are really going to be watching to see, okay, let's see who Charles Martin really is. So he needs to put on a show. If he can get a knockout of Glazkov, that'd be great, you know. And if he just, like, I just hope he's just not going to go in there and look like one of them slow ass heavyweights, and it's just going to be a slow ass, boring ass fight. That's just what I'm hoping doesn't happen. But I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. Please subscribe.